David had always been fascinated by stories where people found magic lamps and got 3 wishes. As a kid, he'd spend hours planning what he'd ask for if he ever rubbed the right bit of brass on a beach somewhere. World peace, obviously. Unlimited money. Maybe the ability to fly. At 41, sitting in his accountant's office being told his small landscaping business was 3 months away from bankruptcy, those childhood fantasies felt particularly cruel. "The numbers don't lie, Dave," Alan said, pushing the spreadsheet across the desk. "You're hemorrhaging money. The van needs replacing. You've got 2 big invoices that haven't been paid, and winter's coming. No one wants garden work done in January." David stared at the red numbers. 15 years of building something from nothing, and it was all slipping away. His wife Karen had been picking up extra shifts at the hospital to keep their mortgage payments current. His teenage daughter Sophie was working weekends at a cafe to save for university, money she shouldn't have to worry about at 17. "What would you do?" David asked. Alan shrugged. "Cut your losses, get a job with steady wages, maybe try again in a few years when you've got more capital." David drove home through the grey October afternoon feeling like he'd been hollowed out with a spoon. He'd built his business on the simple belief that people deserved beautiful outdoor spaces, that gardens could make anyone's life a bit better. Now it felt naive. He parked outside his house and sat there for 20 minutes, trying to work out how to tell Karen they were giving up. That's when he remembered something his grandfather used to say, back when David was small and everything seemed impossible. "You don't need a magic lamp, boy. You are the genie. You just forgot how to grant your own wishes." His grandfather had been a carpenter who'd lost everything in the 1970s recession, then rebuilt his business from a garden shed and sheer bloody-mindedness. He'd died when David was 12, but his voice was still clear in David's memory. David closed his eyes and whispered the words that came to him. "I am the genie of my life, and I manifest my desire. I am the genie of my life, and I manifest my desire. I am the genie of my life, and I manifest my desire." It felt ridiculous, but also strangely powerful, like he'd just remembered he had hands. Instead of going inside to deliver bad news, David walked around his own garden, really looking at it for the first time in months. It was beautiful. The apple tree he'd planted when Sophie was born was heavy with fruit. The flower beds Karen had helped him design were still blooming despite the season. The small water feature he'd built from reclaimed stone caught the last of the afternoon light perfectly. He pulled out his phone and took photos. Then he posted them on the business Instagram account he'd barely used. "October, in our own garden. Proof that beautiful spaces don't hibernate." By the time he went inside, the post had 12 likes and 3 comments. One was from a woman asking if he did consultations for winter planning. "How did the meeting go?" Karen asked, looking up from her laptop where she was marking essays. "I remembered something Granddad used to say," David replied, "about being your own genie." Karen smiled. "He was a wise old sod. What did he tell you this time?" "That I'm not powerless. I just forgot I wasn't." That evening, instead of wallowing, David made a list, not of problems but of wishes. Real, specific wishes about what he wanted his business to become. A team of 3 full-time landscapers. Contracts with local councils for park maintenance. A workshop space for building custom planters and garden furniture. Revenue of £200,000 annually. Under each wish, he wrote 3 concrete actions he could take immediately. "I am the genie of my life," he whispered, whilst Karen slept beside him. "I am the genie of my life, and I manifest my desire." The Instagram post led to a consultation the next week. The consultation led to a £5,000 winter garden redesign project. More importantly, it reminded David that he was good at this work, that people genuinely valued what he created. He started posting regularly, before and after photos of his projects, time-lapse videos of him building raised beds, short clips explaining seasonal gardening tips. His follower count grew slowly but steadily. "You know what your problem was?" Karen said one evening, watching him edit a video on his phone. "You stopped believing in what you were selling." "What do you mean?" "You were so focused on surviving that you forgot why you started. People don't just buy landscaping, love. They buy the feeling of having a beautiful space. David looked at her with the expression of someone who'd just solved a puzzle they'd been working on for months. The breakthrough came in February, traditionally his worst month for business. A property developer saw his Instagram and asked if he'd be interested in landscaping a new housing development. 23 gardens, creative freedom, and a budget that made David's eyes water. "How did you find us?" David asked during the meeting. "Your videos," the developer said. "You don't just show the work, you show the joy. That's what we want for our buyers. Spaces that make them happy to come home." David signed the contract that afternoon. Not just for the immediate work, but as the preferred landscaper for all the company's future developments. By summer, he'd hired 2 full-time employees and moved the business out of his garage into a proper workshop. Sophie got into university without needing to worry about fees. Karen stopped working overtime and started helping with the business marketing, but the real change was in how David approached each day. Every morning, whilst his coffee brewed, he'd whisper his grandfather's wisdom. "I am the genie of my life, and I manifest my desire." Not because he believed in actual magic, but because he'd learned that most limitations exist in your head until you decide they don't. That the difference between a wish and a goal is usually just a plan, and the willingness to act on it. "You're different now," Sophie said one evening as they worked together planting bulbs in a client's garden. "More, I don't know, confident, I suppose." David smiled, his hands deep in the rich soil. "I remembered something I'd forgotten, that's all." "What?" "That if you want magic in your life, you have to create it yourself." Sophie nodded thoughtfully. "So we're all genies, really." "Every single one of us," David said. "We just need to remember how to rub our own lamps."